Here's another alert right now. A top Republican demanding the Interior Department hand over information about federal loans to so-called green energy companies like Solyndra. The issue here is whether or not certain companies receive preferential treatment because of their political connections with the White House. Republican Congressman Sessions-Issa of California, chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Welcome back here. Have you proven anything yet about these political connections, sir?
Well, Bill, I think we have proven it already in other areas. We've had live testimony in front of our committee in which we've made the link between the now Secretary of Commerce calls to the President to try to fast-track these loans. But what we're looking at with Senator Sessions is on top of that, on top of mandates, guaranteed subsidies, and preferential loans that you and I could never get from our government, literally for over $1 billion in one case. What we're also seeing is the fast-tracking of access with no bids to Department of Interior lands. And we'd like to know whether there are also similar emails and communications that show this was part of a take care of your friends and buddies in this, quote, all of the above green energy only presidency, one in which what's below ground is not being added to. Well, in fact, what's above ground is being subsidized, fast-tracked, and given political preferences by the very people who are bundling for this president both before and after his election.
I know you make the argument that you haven't gotten the material you need, and you've been asking for it for 6 months, going back to November, which would be a little more than 6 months. Democrats push back. They say oil and gas production has never been higher in U.S. history. What do you say to that?
I say that that's as close to a lie as you can have and still have a technical support for it. Yes, there is, in fact, on private land, a significant increase in oil and particularly natural gas in America. That's coming out of the use of improved hydraulic fracturing, and it's coming 96% out of private lands. But let's understand something more important. The Democrats themselves, when they were fighting Anwar and other exploration and new production, said it takes 10 years to bring properties online for useful wells. Well, if you go back 10 years, these are, in fact, the kicking in of Bush-era policies to the extent that we have greater production on federal lands. And in fact, there's 37% reduction in drilling on federal lands under this president. So yes, 7 years from now, 5 years from now, you're going to see a reduction because of this president's, if you will, moratorium on drilling. Well, he's taking advantage of his predecessor. So I think it's disingenuous to use a term in Washington to make this. Just as our committee hearing yesterday showed, it's disingenuous to talk about our limited resources when in fact we can be completely energy self-sufficient in oil, natural gas, and coal for hundreds of years with what we know is beneath our ground if we're just allowed to sensibly and safely seek it.
I have a list of 6 or 7 companies you're interested in. One of them is a company known as First Solar. This was a high flyer on Wall Street just 2.5 years ago. It's announced it's laid off half of its workforce at least one of its power plants near LA. The stock price on First Solar is now down to $12 a share. This is a company that received $3 billion in federal loan guarantees. Is this company going to make it?
Probably not, but the one person who made it was their CEO, who took about $400 million out just as those loan guarantees were coming through, and the stock was flying high. So yes, there are people profiting from solar. Yes, solar is working for some, but it's working mostly for friends of the president's, people who in fact are major contributors. Ultimately, these companies are not profitable, even with subsidies and mandates, and as we're beginning to see a record of fast tracking that you and I would never get for use of federal lands. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. Under this administration, if you want to mine or you want to go after oil or natural gas, you're probably going to have an endless hurdle keeping you from using federal lands under this administration. But if you want to put up some windmills, you want to put up some solar, they'll help you so fast that you'd never believe that government could be this cooperative. And oh, by the way, there's always been a link with this administration to his bundlers and solar.
Oh. We know where their drilling is working. North Dakota, northeastern Ohio, western PA, and perhaps soon a state near you, very soon. Sessions-Issa, thank you for your time.
Absolutely, Bill, and it's being done on private land.
Okay, sir, thank you for your time. We'll continue to follow
Thanks,
your
Bill.
hearing there in Washington.